I got a real quick before the intro music bit. You can cut it if you want.
Oh, well,
This is
you're the
just
one editing, so.
Oh, I'll cut it if I want. This is just a thought I had as I was reading the book. You know how the character's name is Jim Nightshade?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the Penny Arcade Acquisitions Inc. D&D
Tell you
plays?
that I haven't. Oh, I guess I watched one.
So the Penny Arcade artist plays a character that is supposed to be like a stage magician and kind of a joke, and his name is Jim Dark Magic of the New Hampshire Dark Magics.
So, probably taken from this.
I
Inspiration,
continually,
yeah.
every time I did not remember what Jim's last name was. I just remembered it was kind of cringy. And I was like, it's not dark magic.
Come one, come all, to the most amazing show on earth! It's words about books discussing something wicked this way comes! We've got the fully skinned man! We've got the genetic jackhammer! We have the girl with 4 eyes, and so much more! I am your host, of course, the alliterated man, Mr. Nate. I'm joined by my partner in crime, half man, half bear, half coffee. That's right, the 3 halves man himself, Mr. Ben.
I do like that. That is, I was prepared to be offended, but I cannot dispute that description of me. So yeah, why the carnival barker introduction?
Because we're talking about Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, which is about an evil carnival.
It's about a dark carnival.
Yes, full of evil people.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention, though, that the first time I ever heard of the concept of a dark carnival was from an Insane Clown Posse record album. And I gotta imagine, I Googled, actually, for a long time, and I could not find any explicit reference to Something Wicked This Way Comes influencing the Insane Clown Posse. But it would be crazy if they both stumbled onto the concept of this weird dark carnival. Though I think the dark carnival is more of a positive thing in Juggalo lore. I'm not sure.
First of all, Juggalo lore.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
It's surprising.
Second of all, I thought you found like lyrics with Something Wicked This Way Comes from ICP.
They did say that, but I couldn't find like an interview where one of them said like this influenced us.
Well, they're not going to admit that.
Why not?
Because then they're not the original Juggalos.
I don't
Ray
think
Bradbury is.
Well, I think what they're saying is they're tapping into some kind of mythic.
Maybe what happened is there was a real dark carnival.
That's what I'm saying.
Visited both Ray Bradbury and the ICP.
That's what I'm saying. Is that there is a mythic Juggalo force that we all tap into. It surrounds us and binds us. So definitely, you better goddamn believe
Ray
it
Bradbury
penetrates
seems
us.
like the kind of guy who would just ignore it and then write about it. And the ICP seemed like they were like lost children. They ran away to join the Dark Carnival, and that's how they became
Oh, is that
what they are now.
That's the thing. So the ICP guys used to be Ray Bradbury's childhood friends, but they rode the carousel backwards over and over again and became ICP, and then he just wrote a book. That's the headcanon I'm going into this entire series with. I don't know how many episodes this is going to be.
I'm guessing 2, but we'll see. You're the one who has to divide it up, so.
Yeah. So I think this was a rare mutual pick for both of us. It was a compromise after Uzumaki.
Well, I think the original plan was for us to read it, and then I think Teku and Crad came up or something.
That's right. That's right.
And yeah, so we ended up shelving this. So I'm glad we picked it back up.
Was it a nice break from like body horror, people crunching themselves into spirals.
Or pregnant women with hand drills drilling people to death in the hospital to eat their blood. Yeah.
But I will say, Something Wicked This Way Comes is not absent body horror. The lightning rod salesman doesn't fare very well.
Yeah, but also, like, him.
You didn't care about him. He didn't endear himself to you the way the characters of Junji Ito did.
Well, what he did was he showed up, he acted like he knew something weird was going on, and then he was nothing. He was unimportant. The end.
Oh my. So I guess I'm looking at the script you've lovingly prepared.
Yeah, 54 chapters.
And I see an about the author question mark.
Yeah, we're going to do an about the author. We already talked about Ray Bradbury when we read The Veldt earlier this year.
I was going to say I'm not going to go into detail about who Ray Bradbury is.
But definitely go back and listen to that episode.
But what I did want to talk about real quick was
your downloads.
Yeah, you go listen to The Veldt. That was actually a good episode.
Yeah, it was a good book, too.
Yeah, I think we had fun talking about that. But I'm not going to talk specifically about Ray Bradbury. He's one of the most famous authors we've covered. We already talked about it. There's no need to do it again. What I will talk about is the afterword to the book. Did you read that?
Nope. You're going to ask me to do more reading? Come on.
So the afterword, he talks about where his interest in the dark carnival concept comes from. And it's actually kind of weird because apparently Ray Bradbury actually had a very positive carnival experience. He met a guy who did the electric chair gag who was called Mr. Electro, who worked in a carnival. And he met him when he was a kid. And
he decided to write part of a novel about him.
No, the guy asked him, oh, what are you into? And Ray Bradbury told him this whole breathless spiel about how he wanted to be a writer and he wanted to do all this stuff. And at the end of it, the guy was like, you know what? I know you. You're my friend who died in World War I. And you know what? You're going to be great. You do everything you want to do, buddy. And he really was a positive influence in Ray Bradbury's life and inspired him to write. And Ray Bradbury felt kind of guilty about what he did to the character of Mr. Electro in this novel. The other interesting thing was that this was originally a screenplay or something.
Yeah, there was there
was a movie.
I think. Well, there was also a radio play on Audible.
Yeah, there's. Eventually, it was made into a movie by Disney, but I think he wanted to do a script specifically for Gene Kelly. He saw some Gene Kelly movie and was like, he met Gene Kelly.
Who?
A very famous, Hollywood royalty actor, Nate.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I'll take your word for it. That Gene Kelly is a famous Hollywood actor. Okay. Are you good? But yes, he wanted to write a script for Gene Kelly. And Gene Kelly liked it, but nobody would fund it. Which may be a fancy way of letting him down gently. I wonder how hard Gene Kelly tried to get it funded. That's just my headcanon.
Got a lot of headcanon going on here.
I do. This you know what that means? That means I was inspired.
Are you going to also write a book about a dark carnival? Did you know there's another book called Something Wicked This Way Comes by some other author?
Named
and most
William
of the
Shakespeare?
No. Not correct, Ben. Incorrect. Most of the reviews that I saw for that were, this was not the Ray Bradbury novel. Don't buy this.
That is a bold move. I assume it was written after.
Oh, here's the one. Roger Hearn. This is the one, September 2nd, 2015.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's one by William Todd. There's a lot more than I thought, actually.
I should write a novel called War and Peace.
And it's just Edenverse Volume 2.
No, it's an esports drama.
Oh, even better.
But yeah, I just thought it was like those were the two interesting things I took from the afterword. Was that it was originally a script for Gene Kelly, and
Who?
he actually had a very pleasant experience at a carnival, which somehow inspired this.
I had a very pleasant trip at a carnival. So I decided to write about an evil carnival.
Yeah, the carnies were very nice, very supportive of my creative choices, and one of them even said I was his best friend from a previous life, and so Satanist carnies.
So I decided to write a book about how carnies are evil.
But yeah, with that, I'm ready to jump in both feet forward.
All right. So we want to talk about Jim Nightshade and Will Holloway, our two early teenage boys. I think they're 12, 13, hanging out in small town America. Ben, before I even go forward, what is boyhood? What is
Jesus.
what is the nature of being a boy? How do you feel about the good old days of just running and running and running?
And frolicking.
And frolicking and throwing rocks at the old abandoned mill or whatever, and running some more, getting into trouble, going to the old candy store.
I will say, before I say anything else, I like the book.
Yes, I like the book as well.
But it is a long novel-length free verse poem about like the magic of boyhood. And if it were written today, it would be taken in a very different context. All I could say is I don't personally feel the theme. The running theme throughout the book is one of basically just becoming an adult and losing the magic of childhood. And it's like, I don't know if it's because I'm a man child who still like Twitch streams StarCraft with my friend, or if I've just matured to a point where I'm accepting of who I am. I can't really tell. There's two ways you could look at that, I guess. The point is, I don't really long for my youth.
Yeah, hard pass.
I was actually a fairly depressed teenager, so I'm much happier now. I don't share this longing. I could appreciate that some people do, that Ray Bradbury certainly did, but it ain't me.
And yeah, it's okay to be wrong, you know.
I don't relate super hard to the theme of this book.
Yeah, I had a friend who kept talking about how great the 90s were, and he was only like a year or two older than me, and he was like longing for his youth. And this was back when he was like 29 or 28. It's like, there's something wrong here, buddy.
Well, so I will say, like, for the first several chapters of this book, I was getting kind of worried because I actually, full confession, I actually messaged you at one point. I think I was about 20 chapters in, and I was like, I wanted to like it because it's Ray Bradbury, and I like a lot of other stuff he's done. But I messaged you, and I was like, is it just me, or is this like real douchey?
I'm glad I wasn't the only one who didn't understand some things, like the theater. We were like, what was the theater scene? What was that about?
And
were they just watching two people?
I think they were.
You said.
I think that's absolutely what it was. They were spying on a couple who had sex with the windows open.
Maybe they should close their windows.
I mean, if that's the magic of boyhood, I'll take being an adult, like just being a married adult any day of the week, I guess. But like, what I was going to say is, it does eventually come around to a theme I'm more comfortable with.
Juggalos.
Now, the Juggalos, believe it or not, Nate.
Juggalos done tried to steal my boyhood.
No, that is not what the Juggalos are about. You will get Faygo thrown at us.
I don't know what that is.
That is a particular brand of very cheap soda that the Juggalos love. So
why?
I can't explain. We don't have time for me to explain Juggalo culture to you. Just trust me. They're
Moon Mist. They've got a cotton candy soda.
Don't make fun of Faygo right now, Nate.
I would drink that cotton candy soda.
Thank you. I was going to say.
That actually sounds kind of delicious.
The Juggalos are surprisingly serious people. So,
but they dress up as clowns and...
They dress up as clowns to heal and support one another.
Okay. So it's like Band of Brothers.
It's exactly like that.
Okay. I'm on the same page as you now.
Okay. So, it does eventually come around to a theme of accepting yourself and accepting aging, which, that's spoilers, I guess, but I wanted to get that out of the way because if it hadn't come around to that, if it had just continued to romanticize youth for the entire book, I would have probably not liked it. But it did eventually. The arc is that everybody has to accept, Jim has to accept that he is a child, and he's going to be a child for a little bit, and Will's dad has to accept that he's old.
I don't even think he's old. Yeah, exactly. He's 54. Middle-aged.
Well, I don't know. In the 30s, maybe 54 was like 75. This was
in the 60s, though. This book was released in 62.
Get yourself a bag of weed, man. Like, you people are looking for like carny magic, and all you need is like just take the edge off, bro. Like, but with that, I'm ready to jump into the summary. Now that we've discussed like the themes that you should be ready for.
So yeah. Jim and Will, they're boys. They're running and they're being boys.
They're the best of boys.
And they come across Tom Fury. That's right, Tom Fury. A great name.
Oh God, that was his name.
Yeah, he's a lightning rod salesman, and
he is only after this referred to as lightning rod salesman.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to help me on this one because. He's like, he senses a storm is coming, which is the carnival, obviously, because a real storm does not show up. And he thinks that it's going to strike Jim's house, which it does. They target Jim, and he gives them a lightning rod for free because he's a bad salesman. So does he know about the carnival? Because he seems like he was going to be more important than he actually turned out to be. I thought that he was aware of the carnival, but then he just falls for one of their many traps.
One of the things I was not expecting from this book, when I say it is like a long free verse poem meditating on youth and age, I really mean that, in that things flow semi-logically along, but there are a lot of leaps that you just got to accept. The book... I feel like we've said this word a lot lately, and I hesitate to say it again.
Pretentious?
I was going to say dreamlike.
Oh, okay.
Ray Bradbury is a very good writer, and he manages to do this in, beautiful prose. But there's a lot of, this happened because of course it happened, because that was always the way it should happen. And in the magic of boyhood, two boys are connected in a psychic way sometimes. And Will just thought that Jim should appear at the window, and then lo, Jim did appear at the window, and it was just part of their magical boyhood connection. You know, that sort of connection that we've all had with our best friend who lived across the street, who we were psychically bonded with. And it's like, no, Ray, I lived in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't realize just how in the middle of nowhere you actually grew up, by the way. We talked about that. I was like, wow, you were in a more rural area than I was. Like I
was.
Yeah, I was shocked.
I blew your mind that I had a well.
Yeah.
Like people still have those? Yeah. Yeah, if the groundwater dried up, we were in deep trouble. But yeah, it goes on like that. So there's a lot of like this happens because of course it happens, and it's like, well, time out. Like I don't follow that. It's kind of like Ray Bradbury is doing a lot of how it is, and it's like, no, I actually don't know how it is. I don't.
I did not have the same childhood you had, Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, I feel like the further we get from 1930s middle America, the less intuitive this is going to be to people. Because like I I grew up playing online video games with my friends. We didn't go on fun running adventures because we didn't live anywhere near each other. It was just, yeah, there was a lot of that, you know. And I'm like, no, I don't really. Actually, this is not intuitive to me.
Please explain.
Again, I liked it. Very well written. I know what he's going for, but there is a slight disconnect that kept me from getting as into the story as I think I would have.
Had you grown up in this time?
I can still get something out of this story, but I think it was really written for people Ray Bradbury's age at the time he wrote it.
Again, though, what's with the lightning rod salesman? What's his significance?
It's symbolic. He's the harbinger. It's classic horror movie stuff. He's the harbinger of doom.
Oh, so he's there to be like, hey, there's a storm coming. It's coming for you.
Don't go into them woods. People die in the woods. And then, of course,
And then the heroes are like, I'm going into those woods.
Yep. He's fulfilling the script, the human script.
But usually the harbinger doesn't then also get
got. This time he does.
Yeah, the harbinger's usually like, all right, don't go into those woods. Like, I'm not going in there.
I'll tell you what. We're going to put a pin in that topic until we get to the point where Will's dad becomes a magic guru.
Okay.
Because I would like to discuss the lightning rod salesman's character arc at that time.
Okay. So Will and Jim. So let's talk about Will's dad. He's a janitor, a night janitor at a library. His name is Charles, and he gives the boys some books. I guess that's how they did it back in the day. You didn't check it out, you just grabbed it and left. And then Will's dad thinks an entire chapter about boyhood, and he goes to the bar every day to have one drink for the boy he once was.
The alcoholic boy he once was.
Was the alcohol to kill his inner child? Here you go, Sonny.
So, yeah, I don't know if you want to tell this slightly out of order, but we got I'm just going to lay the groundwork for this. We got our three characters, right? We got Will, who is you. He's very boring. Yeah.
So
he does everything right.
Will's dad thinks about this. Will does everything right. Will follows Jim, and he wants to think before he leaps, and he doesn't want to get into danger. Whereas Jim does not care about the danger. He's kind of an asshole. He just does whatever he wants to do, regardless of how that affects other people.
Jim loves adventure. And Jim is looking for the angle on things. They describe him as having 1 foot in the world and 1 foot out of the world. Jim is thinking about higher purposes and higher thoughts, and Will is just painfully grounded in reality. Just can't appreciate anything that isn't concrete and logical. He has no appreciation for the rich inner life of an artist.
It shouldn't surprise you that Will is probably going to live, and Jim probably gonna die very young.
James Dean. And he's going to do it with a leather jacket, and he's cool. God.
And then you've got Charles, who wishes he were a boy.
Yeah, that's kind of the extent of his entire story. So, no, he's a 54-year-old man who married kind of late in life. He married at 39, I believe. And his wife is younger than him.
And hotter, let's be real.
And he's constantly upset that he waited so long to get started in life. He feels like he can't relate to his son because the age difference is just too great. He feels more like a grandfather than a father. And he instead of finding a way to deal with that,
or going to therapy. Come on, bro.
There's no therapy in the 60s. They just shock him or something.
That's not true. Freud was around to ask him about his childhood. And he could have supplied so much information.
Yeah, the problem is your penis. You're always thinking about penis. Have you tried just embracing the penis? That's Freud's entire thing. It's almost as if Freud, maybe, wanted penis.
And that's okay.
I think I'm
Freud.
just marking this episode explicit, and I'm just leaving everything in. I don't even know if I'll bleep stuff. Like I said, though, that's his arc. They're setting him up. He's at a low point, and he's going to figure out how to deal with that.
Through alcohol. Maybe
Okay.
that's the problem. He's not drinking enough, okay? He's only having 1 drink a night. He needs to have like 5.
Well, they're very clear that he has 1 drink a night, that he works his 9-to-5 job, that he just spends time in the library reading to escape reality. It does indulge in the kind of authory fantasy that books are magic, which I always roll my eyes at, but that's kind of a Ray Bradbury thing, is the library is this magical place where anything can happen. And
Oh my god.
books are a way of talking to the dead and jumping into other worlds, and it's like, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, sure,
Man,
but
he never played Dark Souls, sounds like.
the problem I have with this is the fetishization of books is kind of lame, because that's really not how books work. They're really not like that.
And also, especially now, when it has other forms of entertainment that it has to compete with, like moving pictures and interactive moving pictures.
Oh yeah, well, it's like how a director would say, like, the theater is a
Oh
experience.
god, it's so pretentious. The theater.
It's self-congratulatory. It's like, I'm writing a book. Aren't books f***ing amazing?
Clearly, Ray Bradbury, you haven't read Edenverse. I'll go get a copy. I'll put it on your grave.
Yes.
That'll dissuade you. Oh yeah, Charles Holloway needs to drink more. Then the boys, they're running home. They run into the barber, Mr. Crissetti. And it's implied later on that he's killed, ? Never confirmed. He just never shows back up again, so I assume he's dead. But they're wanting to keep the barber pole running at night for some reason. And Ben, as our resident douche philosopher, what's the metaphor here for this barber pole?
Yeah, it certainly seems significant. There's a lot of attention paid to it. I could only say there probably is a metaphor here. I don't really know. The vibe I got was that while the pole is running, it provides sort of a sense of continuity and normalcy, and shutting it off would mean a break in that. And so they would prefer that he not shut it off and just let it run all night. Let us pretend that everything will always be all right, even though deep down we know that this fragile symbol of hair cuttery will not protect us.
And also the adults are acting really weird.
Yeah, he smells cotton candy, and that's like, whoa,
He
what?
starts crying. And it's not even cotton candy soda, which sounds delicious, by the way. It's just regular crappy cotton candy.
It's not even delicious cotton candy Faygo. Available now at a convenience store near you.
I'm kind of upset that it's not available at a convenience store near me. There's none in the state.
Well, if there's ever an ICP concert in your state, there will be Faygo.
I need to know if there's ever going to be a concert in our state. Anyway,
You are not prepared to go to one of those concerts. Do not go unaccompanied.
will I be turned into a blind person or a wax witch or...
You're going to get pelted in the head with some Faygo. I don't know what that's going to do to you.
Oh, they're all the way out in Tucson, Arizona. All right. Anyway, Charles sees a flyer for the Cougar and Dark Pandemonium Shadow Show, as well as the most beautiful woman in the world, which is just a block of ice with a void in the shape of a woman, and he looks at for a while, transfixed. And also, I think he's, like, weirded out by it.
Yeah. So this was another of the sort of dreamlike things I did not understand. The most beautiful woman in the world is never explained. It's like you said, it's described to be a block of ice that has the shape of a woman hollow in the middle. And this is not placed at the carnival, but is placed inside an empty storefront.
Right?
For people to just look at. But also, like, I don't think it's refrigerated. And so I think it's actually melting, right? Like, it's described as melting.
I think you're right. And I think that he's concerned about what will happen when it melts.
And the carnival is rolling into town, and all these flyers are going out at 3 a.m. And so this ice block that is going to melt is placed in an empty storefront at 3 a.m. So that's creepy, right? That's not how a normal carnival advertises itself.
It's also weird because it's October, and most carnivals stop for the year after September. Apparently. I don't know anything about carnivals.
I'll take their word for that.
I think I've been to one carnival, and it was more of just like a fair. It wasn't anything with like freaks or anything. It might as well have just been a fair, but it called itself a carnival.
I have never been to a carnival.
Oh my god.
I've been to fairs. I don't know what the difference is.
Carnivals have carny.
I've never been to like a traveling circus, I should say. I've never been to the circus.
Yeah, I don't even know. I assume those are still around, but in far fewer numbers.
I have literally no idea. I also have literally no interest.
Yeah, right. It sounds like a relic from a bygone era.
Sorry, carnies.
I'm not sorry. Get a better job.
Oh my god. I always knew Will Holloway was a Republican. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Your funny, oddly shaped bootstraps.
To be fair, being a Republican around the time of this...
Yeah, that probably put you on the side of not the racists.
Yeah.
Well, the less racists.
Right, exactly.
What did you get out of the most beautiful woman in the world? What was the temptation there? I didn't understand.
I think it's supposed... I think if it's going to tempt you, you see something different. That's what I thought.
Okay.
It represents the women in your life that have left you or whatever. It didn't work on Charles Holloway because he's happily married, and
okay.
But it works on the lightning rod salesman because he's going from town to town. He's never tied down. I assumed he just saw something different, and that's why it lured him in.
He's whistling Freebird. Okay. No, okay, that makes sense. I mean, I didn't quite get that. I didn't really the introduction of Will's dad. I did not know what to make of him because he's introduced as kind of this is he a good guy or a bad guy? He's almost jealous of Will.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get got by the carnival.
Yeah, me too.
And that Will and Jim would have to save him.
I was wondering if he was... So he's obviously envious of Will and Jim.
He wishes he had a Jim in his life. He could throw rocks at the old creek.
Ah, God, yeah. That's another... Okay, that's a trope in a lot of old-timey books and even shows of oh, boyhood, playing stickball in the court. It's that sounds so boring.
Yeah.
We used to run around aimlessly and play with plants and rocks and sticks, and it's oh my God.
Why do you like this?
Why do you miss that?
Yeah. Of course, nowadays he'd be boyhood, playing World of Warcraft for 12 hours straight. Oh, the good old days.
Boyhood, playing Call of Duty with Poonslayer. Going round the old Sheets parking lot, 12 a.m., buying chicken tendies and making memes.
Chicken tendies.
No, it doesn't hold up. Maybe that's just a sign of the decline of the American male. Yes. we are not outdoorsy anymore.
What were we talking about? I think it was Charles.
Yeah, we were talking about Charles. He's jealous. It's kind of like a dark jealousy. You don't know which way it's going to go. Is he on their side, or is he bizarrely trying to be included in their little group?
He could show up in clothes that are 4 sizes too small and be like, "Hey, Will and Jim, it's me, your best friend."
Yeah.
You want to go play stickball at the creek?
I don't know what stickball is. But I don't know if the creek is... I don't think the creek is the appropriate place to play it. I think we're just mixing up folksy sayings.
Anyway, Will hears his dad go to work at like 3 a.m. to go to the library. And his dad also feels like he's acting weird, but his dad is also seemingly aware that something's wrong with the carnival even before it shows up. That's the vibe I got.
Yeah, well, everybody seems to be aware that there's something wrong with the carnival before it shows up.
But they just go for it anyway.
Because it would be silly. I mean, that's a conceit of all horror stories. I have an immensely bad feeling about this, but no rational person would be afraid of a carnival. Nothing bad ever happens at the carnival. These certainly aren't potential murderers traveling from town to town anonymously.
These aren't potential murderers. There's like newspaper clippings. 3 dead on malfunctioning ride. Turns out carnies, not engineers.
Well, they're not murderers. They're just incompetent.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get a chapter, and it's the only chapter with Jim's mom having lines. And she lays some heavy shit on this 12 or 13-year-old about how he's going to run away someday, but he should have lots of kids when he comes back, and he's got to tell her before he leaves or else she'll hold him there forever. And his dad's gone too. I think, is his dad dead or is his dad run away? I can't remember.
I think his dad's dead.
Yeah, and she's putting all of that on Jim. And it's like, damn. You are messing this kid up. No wonder he wants to get the hell out of here.
They have a conversation about death, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, like death and filling your life with stuff to not think about death. And Jim comforts her. Like, hang on, I have to have a note. Oh yeah, okay. So this is the exchange they have. Why, Jim, your hands are ice. You shouldn't have the window so high. Mind your health. Sure. Don't say sure that way. You don't know until you've had 3 children and lost all but one. Never gonna have any. You just say that. I know it. I know everything. She waited a moment. What do you know? No use making more people. People die. His voice was calm and quiet, almost sad. That's everything. Almost everything. You're here, Jim. If you weren't, I'd have given up long ago.
You're what's keeping me alive, Jim. Otherwise, I would have killed myself. Jesus. That's how I read that. I was like, man, that's
Yeah, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, okay, first off,
no pressure.
If your 13-year-old son is saying, no, is he even 13 or is he
He's
like
13
12?
or 12.
Yeah, like if your 13-year-old son is saying like, no use making more people, everybody just dies.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, that's a red flag. I wouldn't say I'd necessarily like rush you to therapy. You could just be being a little edgy, but like, I wouldn't follow it up with a heavy conversation about how you're my reason for living.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think they're both 13. Yes, I looked that up.
So it's like, we're kind of getting why Jim is screwed up, I guess. If Will's dad's story arc is that he feels too old and would like to be young again, Jim's story arc is that he wants the hell out of this town.
And the only way to do that is to become older.
Yeah, he cannot. He is counting the days until he is 18 and he leaves forever, despite his mom telling him that all that. He does not care about that at all. He is like, nope, I know how weird that is. I don't care. Bye. You figure your own life out. Yeah, and then Will, again, he's just there.
Yeah.
I guess Will represents contentment.
I think so.
Yeah, so Holloway...
He helps both the other two characters out.
Yeah. Charles wants to be young, Jim wants to be old, and Will is like, I just kind of like me.
Yeah, Jim.
It's boring, isn't it? He doesn't want anything. He doesn't have protagonist energy because he doesn't want anything.
Big Chad protagonist energy.
Will is the virgin to the Nightshade Chad. Big literary criticism there.
All right. So then back to the story. The lightning rod salesman is lured in by the most beautiful woman in the world. Correct? Like, he sees her, he goes into the shop, and then cut to next chapter. And that's the last time we see him as the lightning rod salesman.
Correct. Those are the events that happen. I also don't know what he saw, what lured him in. It's implied, it's written in a very dark and scary way, but the way I kind of imagined it in my head is, if it were a movie, the lightning rod salesman is looking in at this shadowed thing that the audience can't really see, and he is eventually drawn into the dark, and we never see him again.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened.
I also don't know how that translates into his punishment.
Yeah, again, pinning
that one was a little weird.
Pinning that until we get to Will's dad becoming a wizard.
Just know that the lightning rod salesman, he's never seen again as the lightning rod salesman.
As Nick Fury.
He did have the best name. I think his name implied he was going to have more significance. Like, Tom Fury's in town. Anyway, the boys, they awake to the sound of a train. They go and investigate. They go to a field just at the edge of town, and the carnival arrives quietly and extremely quickly. I guess they even say they liken it to like a storm, right?
Yeah, they constantly liken it to a storm.
And it just appears, and that...
It doesn't just appear. I mean, it comes on a train, but there's... Like, when the
cloud covers the moon, so they can't see very well, and when the clouds move and the moon is once again bright in the sky, the carnival's there.
I thought they described like shapes coming down from the sky and forming the tents.
This is another one where I'm like, I wasn't sure what happened exactly.
Yeah,
it sounded very interesting.
The way it's written is, I guess, kind of unreliable narrator, maybe. We can't really tell what Will and Jim see and what Will and Jim imagine they see. Because they're constantly, like, embellishing in their own heads as it goes on. So there is a description of things coming down from the sky and like, turning into tents and all this stuff, but it's not clear if that's what actually happened or that's what it looked like was happening. But the one thing that does 100% happen is Mr. Dark's fabulous entrance.
Describe it for us.
He comes down in a hot air balloon like the Wizard of Oz. He's just floating along behind the train, and then when everything's set up, Mr. Dark lands in the middle of it in a hot air balloon and walks out. Ta-da!
I hope he actually said that, too. Ta-da! So yeah, that freaks the kids out and they run away. Sorry, the boys out.
It's always the boys.
The boys.
Boys.
And Will has a moment where he thinks about how Jim favors action and Will favors thinking and talking first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how he describes it, sure.
Charles witnesses the boys running home, and Charles decides to go home himself, and on his way home, he sees the melted ice from the most beautiful woman in the world, and he also sees bits of hair, and he just pretends he doesn't see this. Huh?
I don't know. I feel like that, despite my big Jim energy, I feel like that might be my response to that situation as well. Like, there was clearly a disturbing block of ice here, and now there's just what looks like struggle and strands of hair all over the ground.
What looks like a struggle, yeah.
Not tonight.
Okay, bye. Yeah.
Not tonight.
I don't want any part of that.
Yep. I got a bad vibe about all of this. I mean, really, what is he going to do, though? Like, his options are investigate, which would be dumb.
Yeah.
Or call the cops, which, about what?
I found some hair and some water. It's some hair. Okay, Mr. Holloway, we'll get you the help you need.
Go back to the library. Which is what he does instead of sleeping. Which
he does do that, yes. He goes home and he starts muttering to himself about 3 a.m. and how that's when middle-aged men are awake because they're always up thinking about their lives while women and children sleep and women are immortal. And I just wrote, Ben, this one is all you.
Yeah, okay. So
bring us your douche philosophy powers.
I don't really know if this is a douche philosophy power or just good old-fashioned sexism.
He does do that a lot.
He describes, so he's jealous of Will for his youth, and he's jealous of his wife for her connection to Will. And he thinks to himself very lit majorly that women are immortal because they make life. They have children. And they know that is the child of their body. They have a greater role in creating the child than the man does. And he kind of even muses, like, he doesn't think his wife cheated on him or anything, but he's like, how do I know Will's even mine? Like, he has less of me than he has of her. And he's not my proper legacy. I don't even know how to relate to him.
I have never tried talking to my son, but damn it, why doesn't he know these things?
But that's basically what it is like the whole, like, women are immortal thing. They're not. He's not.
Yeah, I'm sure if my wife had the option, she would have rather had me carry that child.
Well, I was going to say, I don't want to say he's fetishizing, because that has like a sexual context in this, and that's not it. It's not about that, but he's kind of like, he's objectifying in a way what it is, and he's just feeling sorry for himself when there is a solution to this problem. And the solution to this problem is get to know your child, build a connection with him, and then you won't feel that way. It's not because she carried him in her body for 9 months. It's because she spends time with him.
Right.
Like, if you're an adopted mother, like if you adopt a child, you're still going to be the mother to that child because you're going to form a bond with them. It doesn't matter that you...
No, you're going to put them back in that womb for 9 months. I read Junji Ito.
But the point is... yeah, the point is, it's him just feeling sorry for himself. And he's... It's a very, like, pretty prose kind of way of saying something, but the meaning of what he's saying is very shallow, I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a knock against Ray Bradbury. I think that's intentional. I think...
That's part of his arc.
Yeah, I think we're not supposed to agree with Charles at this point.
Good, because I didn't.
I do enjoy, though, that Charles is the library janitor. And we come to find, like, he always waxes poetic about every thought he has. He just goes on for pages and pages of beautiful prose about how miserable he is. And it's like, do you want to write a book, Charles? Do you want to write a book? Is that what this is? Is that why you're a janitor at the library? So you could be near the books? And then we eventually do come to find out, like, yeah, he kind of wants to be a writer. And it's like, oh, I could never tell. Because that is a... I'm gonna anger some people here. But I've known... in my time, some lit majors who were a lot better at talking than they were at saying anything.
Oh my God.
And that is Charles.
Yeah, that's fair. I know my child is mine because she has my nose. It's very clear.
That's cute.
I mean, for me it is. I don't know how she's going to feel about it in 10 years, but...
If I have children, they're going to be just short and hairy.
regardless of gender.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that... Oh, any girl child of mine is going to be in deep trouble.
All right, should we move on?
Yep.
Will and Jim, they go to the carnival the next day, and they're surprised because it looks normal. Then they see their teacher, Miss Foley, and she's, like, looking for her nephew, who never shows up, by the way. And
I don't think her nephew existed. I think that somebody got into her head in the mirror maze. No, she hadn't gone into the mirror maze.
No, she hadn't
yet.
gone into the mirror maze yet.
They killed the nephew.
Possibly.
Yeah, the nephew's dead.
So she goes into the mirror maze, and she starts screaming for help. Will actually warns her not to go in there. So that's another point for Will, by the way. Ben.
I did think Will was actually pretty heroic in this.
Yeah, he drags her out of there. And
Will saw the mirror maze, and he perceived that there was something up with it.
yes.
And he warns her not to go in there, and he warns her. Okay, can we talk about how Will is like? Is this how kids talked in the 30s? How he starts every sentence like me playing StarCraft on stream, like, oh boy, oh gosh, oh god, I don't know, oh boy.
Oh, jeez. Don't go in there.
He does. He sounds like Morty.
I was going to say Morty. Yeah.
Sounds like Morty from Rick and Morty because he's like, especially because when his dad becomes Rick, he's like, Will, we're gonna have to go in there and save Jim. Oh God, Rick! Oh boy!
Oh, jeez, Charles, I don't know about this. You know.
Oh geez, it's like oh God, man.
Will, you gotta laugh, Will. You gotta laugh. It's the only way, Will. Come on, Will. Oh, jeez. I don't know, Charles. I don't know about this.
There's nothing funny about this, man. Everybody's dead. Shove them way up your butt. Everything's funny again.
So yes, he goes and he rescues Miss Foley. And Miss Foley was like, there was a younger me in there, and she told me that I was the fake Miss Foley and she was the real Miss Foley. And of course, Will does not then light this on fire.
You can't light a mirror maze on fire.
It's made of glass. It'll melt eventually.
It melts. It doesn't burst into flames. I mean, I guess it does. I watched this Hot Shop show on Netflix. Sometimes
you could just light a fire around the maze. But yeah, Miss Foley's like, well, she's clearly gotten to, but she's like, well, I'm gonna go home and sleep this off. Good day, boys.
They're like, what about your nephew? And she's like,
Who?
He'll probably come home. The 30s were a different time with child abductions.
And then, that is true. And then Jim, like Ben, thinks he can study this magic shit and learn something from it. So that evening, he goes to the mirror maze and has to be pulled out by Will. And he's clearly gotten to, but then he's going to go home and he's going to sleep it off. And then let's come back later tonight, Will. Even though Will's like, no, we need to just avoid this place. Like,
You're
completely.
telling me you're not even remotely curious what Jim saw in that maze.
I know what he saw in that maze.
What did he see in that maze?
I'm pretty sure he saw an older version of himself.
Yeah. It's like, hey man, you can have everything you want. You just got to do a few things. It's like, okay. You know, I've been to the Monkey's Paw subreddit. There's a way to game this.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the
out
Monkey's
really
Paw
well.
subreddit?
No, that's a thing.
Yeah, so what it is you ask a question, or you make a wish, and then
And
everybody...
they say, but yes, it's granted, but...
Well, no, everybody else tells you how it could possibly go wrong.
Oh.
So you try to make, like, the perfect wish that can't go wrong, and then everybody else finds flaws in it.
Well, I saw a thing on Facebook a few times where it's like, all right, you get to make a wish, but the second person to comment gets to grant it, but then tell you what else happens.
Well, and then the consequence is always like you have prostate cancer. Like, okay, that's not fun.
Yeah, no.
It's like, I can fly, you have prostate cancer. That's all of them.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm going to have my prostate removed. Thanks, idiot.
You can do that?
You can cut pieces of you can cut anything out of your body.
Oh, see, now you're sounding like Jim.
How am I sounding like Jim?
Okay, there was okay, at one point in time, there was somebody who was like, I bet there is a way to cut out your prostate and not kill them. And then someone like you was probably like, I don't know, man. What if we just don't? And then somebody like me was like, I bet we could figure it out. If I could just get in there I bet I could figure it out.
And then you figured it out after a few casualties.
Probably peasants.
Peasants. You're acting like surgery was a possibility during a time where peasants were a thing.
It was possible. The Egyptians did surgery.
This one is I Wish Wednesday was spelled Wensday, not how it's spelled now.
Don't you dare take Woden's Day away from me.
The other thing is granted, but now it's commonly pronounced Wednesday, leaving people to misspell it still. That one's pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're not all like life-altering things. But yeah, no, I think we could use the mirror. I want to know what the mirror maze is doing. Because it seems to me like if all the mirror maze is doing is like, hey, you could be older, or hey, you could be younger. That's easy. Check. I can resist that. Hey, you could be younger. If they come up to me and they're like, hey, Ben, I could shave 80 pounds off you right now. I'd be like, sounds too good to be true. Screw you. I'm just going to keep on going in the mirror maze. Let's see what else you got. I'm going to keep like doubling down until they find something I actually want. But like this older or younger thing, that doesn't
we're going to get you some cotton candy Faygo. Sold. Hook me into the machine, buddy.
Cotton candy Faygo poured directly by the great Malenko.
So yeah, you're going into the mirror maze, and I'm like, maybe we don't go into the evil magic that can't be used for good.
It can. You're just not trying hard enough. It's very much like surgery. In most contexts,
very much like surgery.
It is very much like surgery. In most contexts, cutting someone with a knife is not good. But there is a way to do it such that it is good. That's what this mirror maze is. Most of the time, it's some kind of Faustian bargain. But sometimes, it's just fun and profit.
I wish I could play stickball in the creek. Done.
And you're underwater.
So, the boys also find the lightning rod salesman's bag sitting in the carnival unattended.
Full of lightning rods.
The lightning rods have, like, warding symbols on them, right? Like, various, like, I would assume, like, crosses and whatever to ward off evil.
Crosses and moons and just a symbol from every religion. Like, one of them's going to work, right?
And the answer is no, actually. None of them work.
Well, no. They did work. Jim just took the lightning rod down.
He did take it down, but it didn't help for the lightning rod salesman.
Well, that's because he abandoned his bag. He didn't go in there holding up a lightning rod. See, already I'm thinking of ways to game the system. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take that bag. We're each going to hold a lightning rod. And we're going to walk into that mirror maze. And if any one of those mirror people starts talking to you, you raise it up to him like a vampire and see if they like pull back. And if they don't pull back, you just smash the mirror with it. And then you just keep going.
So you're saying you need to destroy the evil magic artifact?
I don't think I need to destroy the evil magic artifact. I'm not going to destroy all of them.
Saying.
I'm not going to destroy all of them. We need to test. We need to hypothesize. Like, why do you hate science?
This isn't science.
Are you an anti-vaxxer? Are you an anti-vaxxer right now?
Magic, Ben. Just like magnets.
If you don't want to explore this mirror maze, you're basically saying you hate science. That's all I'm saying.
You're forming a hypothesis. Is this mirror maze evil? We sent several people through it, and they all got tempted with evil things that ultimately made their lives worse. So maybe we don't go into the mirror maze anymore. If anything, I think you hate science because you're not accepting the facts of the situation based on the scientific results.
No, incorrect, sir. See, you're assuming I'm not going to change what I do each time.
No, because I think that you're going to be tempted by evil magic after the first time, and you're not going to have the wherewithal to continue. Ben, how have you heard of a dreamlike state? Ben, let me explain this to you. You're not going to act rationally because you've got the you've got the mirror maze curse. So
okay, no, you don't get to do this.
You've actually already gone crazy.
You don't get to do this.
I think we can't trust you because you've already lost your mind.
You can't do this. After all of the Uzumaki episode, you're like, why doesn't anybody just leave this stupid town? And then I said it was the spiral curse.
Why do you go into the maze? Just leave the maze. Leave it alone.
I said the spiral curse got into their head, and you were like, that's stupid. You don't get to do that. I'm just saying, for most of history, every time you stabbed somebody with a knife, it killed them. But then there was one guy who was like, I bet I can stab him just the right amount.
I don't think you know how surgery works. They don't stab them.
No, you just slice them just the right amount.
Slice them just the right amount.
That's essentially what they're doing. I'm simplifying a little. All right, this has gone on too long. We need to make a little more progress.
All right, yeah. So,
point is, Mirmay's good, Nate bad.
So Jim wants to he wants to go ride this merry-go-round when they come back later that night because, it's the only ride they haven't checked out, and what are the odds that this one's also evil? Let's scientific method this, Will. It's science. I'm definitely not going crazy. And so they start up the ride, which is out of order, but they're caught by Mr. Cougar, who basically, he grabs both the kids and almost all but threatens to kill them. And Mr. Dark comes along and he stops him, and he gives them free rides on the merry-go-round when the ride is operational. And then he asks Jim's name, and he asks this a lot. And I don't know why he needs Jim's name, but Jim keeps giving him a fake name. He says he's Simon. I don't know why he needs the boys' names, so maybe you can help me out on that. But Jim then, instead of going home like he's supposed to, he climbs a tree, and he has Will follow him up that tree. And then they watch Mr. Cougar ride the merry-go-round backwards. And slowly he becomes younger and younger until he too is a boy. But he does not play stickball in the creek, Ben.
He does evil. So yeah, he turns from a muscle daddy into this 6-year-old, and then he runs away. And he runs and he runs, and then they chase him. And they chase him all the way back to...
They run, and they run just like boys do. They run, and they keep running.
The wind whipping at their hair, and Will feeling like Jim's always just one step ahead of him, but Jim, come back, don't leave me behind. Jim, you've always got one foot in the ethereal and one foot on the ground, and I'm just afraid you're gonna float away one day. And leave me here, leave me, Jim. We're always gonna be friends, right, Jim? Right, Jim? We're gonna go camping while our wives stay behind, and we're just gonna snuggle maybe a little, but one night it turns into something else, and it's beautiful. It's what we've always wanted. We're close in a way that we always thought we should be. And it's very hard not to make it a gay thing. It's very hard not to make it a gay thing. They're very close. I promise you.
That's just how boys are. That's just how boys are, Ben.
I promise you, Nate and I are friends, and I have. I consider.
You didn't have any heterosexual life partners that then turned into something more.
I feel like Nate and I are pretty good friends, despite the way we snip at each other sometimes. But I don't constantly wonder if you're just gonna float away from me. If you're gonna leave me behind.
Do you want to go camping? Do you want to go camping?
I want that more than anything. Oh, Christ. But yeah, so they follow the kid back to Mrs. Foley's house, where they realize he's pretending to be her nephew.
Yeah, at first I thought she was just an idiot because she didn't recognize her own nephew, but I think that she realizes it's not her nephew, but whatever.
You know what I wonder, now that I'm thinking about it? I wonder if Cougar was the nephew the whole time. If he showed up with some forged letter at her house as a little kid, and then they went to the carnival, and he aged himself back up for some reason, and then she couldn't find him, and then he had to age himself back down to go keep up the ruse.
Wow, that would be commitment on his part.
He's a method actor, Mr. Cougar, yes. Is it Cougar or Cougar?
I thought it was Cougar.
Cougar sounds less stupid.
Let's go with Cougar.
Let's go with Cougar. It's not spelled, it's spelled Cooger. But Cougar, it just sounds like I'm trying to say cougar. Oh, boy.
So Jim, like a fool,
geez.
They gotta go introduce themselves to this nephew. They gotta stare him in the eyes and not blink, even though it's to their advantage to not reveal what they know to this guy, but whatever. So they do that, and then they go home, and then Will is just, he's waiting for Jim to signal what adventure they're gonna have that night, and then he hears something, and Jim is leaving his house without Will. So Will sneaks out and secretly follows him. His shitty friend, Jim.
Okay, the reason Jim left Will behind is that Will would not support Jim's
His stupid
endeavors.
decision. Yeah.
Will would be a wet blanket like Will always is, and he would urge caution, and he would say, no, don't go talk to the carny man who's magically become a child. Don't find out what mysteries he knows. Don't find out what cosmic truths just lurk behind his eyes. Just sit at home and play stickball in the creek, which I'm 90% sure is not how stickball is played. But that's what Will wants. Will just wants everything to be normal and dumb forever. And Jim just wants something more. I mean, he just wants to get out of this town. He wants to make something of himself. He wants to make some kind of magical eldritch being of himself. And Will just won't let him have that. And so right as Jim is about to greet the nephew, he knows the nephew will talk to him and only him. But if Will's there, the nephew is going to get all weird about it, because everybody knows Will is kind of weird. He's what would come to be known as a narc.
And you know what? Will then proceeds to beat Jim's ass when he finds out what Jim's plan is, to ride the carousel in the forward direction to become older.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, like, he didn't lose. He merely failed to win. And Will, like, let's be real, Will kind of sucker punched him there. Like, he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for that.
The moonlight was in his eyes. His shoes were tied.
He's like, just go home, Will. And then Will just out of nowhere just punches him in the face, like totally unwarranted. And they're wrestling for a while, and it's starting to go from like a violent wrestle to like maybe something bordering uncomfortable. And that's when the nephew comes down with a box of shiny objects that he throws all around them.
And then he yells that there's a thief. And Mrs. Foley comes out. She's like, oh, thieves! And she yells that Jim Nightshade and Will Holloway, they're thieves! They're thieves! Can you imagine a time where you wouldn't just, like, pick up your phone to call the police?
Well, I think she didn't know what was going on, so she went to look outside, and she sees Jim standing there holding her watch, which... Man, this lady is eagle-eyed, looking from a second-story window down at a kid holding a watch.
Dark.
Recognizes the kid, recognizes the watch, and just immediately goes, thief! And I don't know if she called, like, she might not have immediately called the cops because she had some pre-existing, like, they're her students. So maybe her first instinct was just to try to talk to them. But she does eventually call the police. Or no, she doesn't call the police. She
goes to the police station.
She calls his dad and tells him to meet her there.
Yeah. So
nobody ever calls Jim's mom. They always call Will's dad.
Yeah. You don't want to involve her in anything. She's just going to be like, oh, Jim's in trouble with the law, just like his father. His father who is dead, and his two sons who also died. Oh, God, if Jim goes to jail, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have a bunch of prescription medicine that I shouldn't have.
And this bottle of absinthe. And I always wondered what might happen if I mixed the two.
The boys chase Mr. Cougar the carnival. Mr. Cougar starts riding the carousel, and Will tells Jim that Cougar will kill them, which is not incorrect, or not correct, I should say, sorry. Cougar would kill Will. Jim would be just fine.
Yeah, they see potential in him.
Yeah, and so Will ends up throwing the carousel box, whatever the controls are. He throws them. The ride just keeps on going, and Mr. Cougar just ages up into a mummy. And they actually call the police because they're like, maybe if we save him, he'll forgive us. And I was like, Will, just let him die. Just let him die.
Oh yeah, I was 100% on team. Just like, okay, we need to start constructing an alibi. We need to whistle
and walk away nonchalantly to start.
Yeah, we need to go.
I couldn't have killed him. I was too busy thieving and stealing.
Yeah. We were all staying at the third child's house. There's never any, like, there's one other kid mentioned in passing or something, but like,
And he doesn't have a name.
but yeah. So they come back with the cops, but those tricky carnies are one step ahead of them. This is an interesting problem for me. They take the elderly Mr. Cougar and they put him in the electric chair and say he's Mr. Electro and that the kids just saw something that they didn't understand, and
Those crazy boys. Am I right?
we tried to give him a little shock just to punish him for spying on us, and yeah, it must have scared him a little too much. And so the cops and the paramedics are standing there like, okay, they're a little skeptical. So Mr. Dark, the illustrated man of the Illustrated Man anthology, I suppose, he demonstrates the act where they throw Mr. Cougar in the electric chair and they shock him, and he comes to life and he can talk. He doesn't look or sound very healthy, but
And Will is like, if he cut the power, he would die. And then he's like, wait, does that mean I want him to die? Yes, Will. Yes. You've already gone this far. The carnies already hate you. Let's just go the extra mile, buddy.
it's us or them now. You just gotta kill them and take their shit.
Their evil magic shit that will ruin your life.
I'm with you, Will. We should kill these carnies, but then I need that carousel for research.
And again, Mr. Dark asks the boys' names, and they give them fake names. And then, meanwhile, Miss Foley, she knows that Cougar's not her nephew. She knows the boys didn't try to steal her jewelry, but she really wants to ride that carousel, so...
She wants to ride that carousel and that the boys will try to stop her.
Yeah, so let's go get him in trouble with the law.
You said it like Judge Dredd, but these are the most...
on purpose.
Okay, now boys, stealing is wrong, and
Stealing and thieving, that'll get you a night in the pokey.
you're lucky that she does not want to press charges, because I would have thrown the book at you.
I would have tossed it at you underhandedly.
Yeah, I would have slow pitched softball to that book. And yeah, so they get like community service and they got to apologize and all that stuff.
And then his dad reminisces again about being a boy.
I remember when I was a boy and I got away with crimes.
He knows Will's innocent, but Will won't tell him why he admitted guilt, because they never talk.
Yeah, they start to almost talk, and this is where I'd say this is kind of the middle of Will's dad's arc. Where
Yeah, he climbs up it's not a ladder. It's just a bunch of rungs, right?
well, so Will is obviously upset and in trouble, and his dad recognizes that and is sensitive to it. He doesn't push Will too hard. He doesn't yell at Will. And I think Will really appreciates that. And based on all the crap Will's been going through lately, Will really appreciates like the safety and security of his family. And he doesn't want his dad to feel bad. And more importantly, he recognizes like what this carnival can do to people who are uncomfortable with their age. And he doesn't want his dad to fall victim to that. And so when Will shows a little bit of concern for his dad, and his dad shows a little bit of sensitivity to Will, they have a moment where they come closer to understanding one another. And I think that's where like Will's dad doesn't feel as distant from Will for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and Will warns his dad not to go to the carnival, and his dad's like, that's weird. I was going to tell you to do the same thing. Ha, 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 ha.
Now let's go have a good climb on that ladder you nailed into my house, you little angel.
You little scamp.
Do you know how much fucking siding costs? But that's fine.
Will and Jim wake up. Will notes that Jim took down the lightning rod. I think that's symbolism for him inviting danger to him, but themes and symbols are for fifth grade book reports, so I'm not going to talk about that. They notice a balloon above them with the wax dust witch inside. She's blind but can feel their souls or something like that, and she puts a mark on Jim's roof, but the boys come up with a clever plan to defeat her mark. A bucket of water to hose. But I thought it was I just read The Poppy War, or I just re-listened to that podcast, so...
So you're going to make a reference to it that absolutely no one gets?
No one will get... Yeah.
Don't fully understand the purpose of this scene. She marks their house. We never find out what the purpose of that was because they wash it off.
Carnival can find it.
Well, I mean...
And she never once imagined that they had running water.
Well, also, like, you just know their address now?
She's blind. She doesn't know their address. She just knows who they are.
That's right. She probably can't read the numbers on their house.
Yeah, she can't. So, the numbers on the house don't have a soul for her to feel.
They really should have put somebody in the balloon with her.
That would have helped. Like, oh, there they are. Okay, cool. Let me just write down their address. All right, off we go.
Huh, yeah, that's a whoopsie daisy. So then, after they wash off the symbol, Will goes like tiny Rambo.
Yeah, I was going to say, he goes Rambo on her.
Yeah.
He gets his Boy Scout bow and arrow that he has, and he lures her in by feeling like excited, like, we beat you, witch. And she comes back, and then he throws the arrow because the string breaks. I don't know. What was that symbolize, Ben? The string on the bow broke.
I thought she broke it.
I kind of thought she broke it. But then he throws the arrow, and it cuts a hole in the balloon, and she blasts off again like Team Rocket.
It literally is like Team Rocket, yeah.
I was actually... Really, it would have been great if she would have said, I'm blasting off again!
Unfortunately, our time at the carnival has ended for today. But don't worry, we'll be opening again next week with even more mirror mazes and rejuvenating carousels that I personally see no downside to.
How'd you like the alliterated man? Was that...
Yeah, that was a real good pun.
Thank you.
Great. Anyway, the episode's over now. You can check us out on Twitter at WABpod. You can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/WABpod. You can... definitely actually do check out our blog at blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. Every day in October, I will be posting a short horror story review. We may eventually record some of them as bonus episodes and send them out, but if you want to see them as they come out, check out blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. And we are still doing the Story of StarCraft stream every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, so that's that.
Bye.
Words About the American Economy is a poorly spoken podcast. And a poorly understood podcast.
It features two people who are not economists talking about the economy. And you might have to cut this.
I'm going to cut most of this.
Good.